Alright, welcome back to English 101. My last video was the intro video for writing Project 2, and it was the guidelines for that. So this time I'm going to go over topic choice. Your topic choice, remember from the last video, it has to be, one, a controversial issue. Oops. Now, the big thing here, obviously, is controversial. If you have a topic that no one can argue with, then that is not good persuasion. I mean, granted, this is supposed to be an unbiased essay, but if no one can argue with it, what's the point in reading it? Because basically, you're just reading something that you already know. If, for instance, we said our essay was on meth, let's just do meth. Well, let's just do a paper on meth. When we do this, we're going to first of all in our essay have first the topic, and that might be interesting. You can find sources on the effects of meth, and you can find, I mean, you can even talk about how people cook it and all of that stuff. I really have no idea what I'm talking about, so I don't even know if cooking is the right term, but nonetheless, everything you can find out about meth. That's just generally informing the reader about the topic. The second section then is going to be one side of the argument. That, if you're doing math, that would be generally don't do math. Pretty easy. But then the problem becomes in section 3, when you're doing the other side, these two, 2 and 3, should really be the opposite of each other. So at that point, your essay becomes either don't do math or do math. And obviously, no one's really going to support that side of the argument. So by writing a paper about this, you're not really analyzing anything. I mean, I guess you are, but the reader isn't really learning anything from your essay, and that's really the benefit of this paper. Generally, if you pick up a paper and it says on the title, "Should you do math?" Well, you're probably not going to read it because everybody pretty well knows the answer to that by now. And if you don't, well, good luck. Good luck to you. So we need something controversial. Let's do something like, let's just do the generic abortion. Okay, so the first section will be the topic. Give me basically a general rundown of how is the controversy of abortion doing these days? What are people saying? What is the up-to-date information on this topic? And so I'll cover this again in the coming weeks, but whenever you find outside sources, make sure that your, whoops, that's supposed to be a U, outside sources, whoops, oh crap, are, let's see, are later than 2000, what year is this, 2015, so 2010. Make sure you don't have any sources that are older. Let me get away. That's a good way. No sources that are older than 2010, because I want something that is up to date. You want to make sure that you give your readers up to date information. And if you're getting older than 2010, you're kind of crossing that 5-year window. And generically, a 5-year window is kind of the limitation on using an outside source. So if it's from 2009, maybe it might be all right. 2008, you're getting a little old. 2007, 2000, 99. Those are all pretty old, so try to stay away from those types of sources. You only need 3, so it should be pretty easy, especially if you're doing, abortion, to find sources that are well within the last five years. So make sure you do that. After you get through the topic, you give me some information about it. You're going to talk about one side of the argument. And so with abortion, it's going to be basically pro-abortion. Tell me about those people that are pro-abortion. What do they believe? Why do they believe it? What are some of the arguments they have? What are some of the things that they do to kind of support that cause? What is the one side saying? And make sure it's recent. Make sure it's between later than 2010 or later. Make sure you find out what's been happening in the last 5 years with those people who are pro-abortion. And of course, number 3, the other side of the argument, that's going to be anti-abortion. And so you'll find articles within the last 5 years that tell us what these anti-abortion people have been saying, and what are some of their arguments. Let's see. I had something else I wanted to tell you. Oh yes, one of the big mistakes that everyone has is that they don't talk too much about both sides. They just kind of blend these sections into a single section and say, you know, instead of having it clear cut to where it's one side versus the other side, they kind of have a single section where it describes both. In comparison, that can work, but I highly recommend that you stay away from that because then really what it becomes is kind of an argument within the paper, and that's most of the time isn't really very effective because at that point it becomes here's what one side says, and here's what the other side says. Here's what the first side says. Here's what the other side says. And so it's not very organized, in my opinion. So I recommend you stay away from that. You're welcome to try it, but I wouldn't because it usually doesn't end as well, and it's usually much more difficult to write. So that's what we're talking about when we talk about choosing an issue. So make sure, you know, in summary, just make sure you choose a topic that is controversial, that you feel comfortable writing about, and that you know a little bit about both sides. That way you can find research articles to support your description of both sides of the argument, hopefully in separate sections, not like this. Don't describe both sections, both sides in one section. Dedicate one section to both. So if that hasn't confused you, which I hope it hasn't, good. And if you have questions, feel free to post them.